Finally, last and not least, how many do we get? That's it? This set is totally spoiled, right? 281 out of 10. I expected way more artifacts than this. This is kind of sad. Alright, let's see what we got here. Timeless Lotus. Mana cost of 5 colorless. It's a legendary artifact. It enters the battlefield tapped. It has the ability tap, add all 5 colors to your mana pool. Okay. I don't know that this is going to be useful. I mean, I guess if you have... See, the thing is, in draft, in this set, there's not a lot of expensive creatures to play, or expensive spells to play. There's just like a handful of fatties, and even the fatties aren't that big. 7/7 was the biggest, and there was only one of them. There was a 6/6, and the rest are 5/5 or 5/4. There's one 5/7. They're not that big, and they're not that expensive. So the only reason I think you would play this is if you have a lot of expensive spells you want to cast, and this is like a 5th turn ramp or 4th turn ramp spell. But if you're playing this on turn 4, your opponent has already developed their board, and you're still ramping, and you're taking damage. And you just wasted your entire turn to get 5 extra mana the next turn. I don't know that this is a good way. I don't think this is a good way. I don't think this is a good ramp spell. I don't think this is going to be useful. It doesn't contribute to domain because they're not basic lands on your side. It's just an artifact. This would enable a 5-color draft archetype, so it could be useful in that. But even then, you got cards in your hand you can't play until turn 5 or 6 when this thing untaps and becomes useful. So, not good. I'd give this an F for limited. I'd like to see somebody challenge that grade. Anyways. Next up, Karin Silax. 3 colorless for a legendary artifact. Enters the battlefield tapped. Players can't pay life to cast spells or to activate abilities that aren't mana abilities. So that cycle where you pay 2 life to reduce the mana cost by 1 colored mana would not be countered by this. It would not be disabled because that's a mana ability. So what's the point of this? Players can't pay life to cast spells or to activate abilities that aren't mana abilities. Has the ability X tap, exile this artifact, destroy each non-land permanent with mana value X or less. Activate only as a sorcery. So it's a board wipe. So you would just turn them sideways, attack, wipe the board at the end of your turn. Preferably if you have card advantage. This thing seems like it sucks.
Thank you to Mr. Shell Riley, who made this beat, and that's why it doesn't suck.
I guess if you're in green, this could be useful against the aggro deck. If your opponent's an aggro archetype, because your creatures are going to just cost more than your other ones, so you could selectively wipe the small creatures off the board. But even then, since you don't know the archetype of your opponent until the first game, this is a best of 3 sideboard card. I don't think you would main deck this. This is a D- sideboard. Karin Silax. Next up, so the first 2 mythics get D- and F. Not good. Weatherlight Complicated. It's a 5/5 vehicle with 2 colorless mana. It has flying. As long as this card has 4 or more Phyresis counters on it, it's a Phyrexian creature in addition to its other types. Whenever a creature you control dies, put a Phyresis counter on this creature. Okay, so 4 creatures need to die on your side. Okay, so you put a Phyresis counter on this creature and then draw a card if it has 7 or more counters on it. It doesn't scry 1. So whenever a creature... So for 2 mana, this sits on your side doing nothing. Each time a creature you control dies, you get to scry 1. Until 4 of your creatures die, this sits there doing nothing. And then, let's say turn 6 or 7, finally your 4th creature has died. This is a 5/5 flyer. And if the game goes along and it somehow gets 7 or more counters on it, so the 7th counter you put on, you get to draw a card. And you no longer get to scry. So scry turns into draw. It seems pretty bad to me. It's too slow. It's something you can play with 2 extra mana early in the game. It does absolutely nothing until turn 7. Yeah, it just seems bad. However, it's bad unless you're building around Astor Bearer of Blades. Because this dude gives that 5/5 vehicle 2 mana, 5/5 flying vehicle, crew 1. So you play that vehicle on turn 2, you play this dude on turn 4, that vehicle is now a crew 1 5/5 flyer. So turn 4, you slam this guy down, you just put 9/9 with stats on the board, 5 of which are flying. So you pair that with Weatherlight Complicated, and this thing is playable. Otherwise, I'd say it's a D- or F for limited. Next up, Golden Argosy. How many vehicles do we have there? It's just those 2 vehicles, one of which is mythic. So that's never gonna happen. You're never gonna be able to build around this guy in limited for vehicles. This guy's rare. You have 1 rare vehicle and 1 mythic vehicle. No draft you're ever gonna... 1 in a million will you draft 2 vehicles and that dude and create that sort of archetype. It's kind of disappointing. Anyways, next up is Golden Argosy, 4 colorless for a 3/6 vehicle. Whenever this vehicle attacks, exile each creature that crewed it this turn, return them to the battlefield tapped under their owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So you tap to crew. You could tap, it's only crew 1. You could tap multiple creatures to crew it and exile as many creatures as you tap to crew this, and return them to the battlefield tapped at the end step. This doesn't look that bad. This looks pretty good, actually. This vehicle is playable in any deck, any archetype. I'm sure there's Enter the Battlefield abilities with every archetype. 4 mana for a 3/6. And the ability is when it attacks and it has high toughness, this will survive, potentially. This looks good. Golden Argosy. Yeah, you're the vehicle of this set. You're the one. You're the one that the people want. I think you're a B. You're that good. You're a good vehicle. Good job, Golden Argosy. Relic of Legends, 3 colorless for a artifact. It's like a mana ramp. Has the ability to tap, add 1 mana of any color. It also has the ability to tap an untapped legendary creature you control, add 1 mana of any color. And that's an ability that you can trigger anytime. So you tap this for 1 mana of any color, you could continue to tap a legendary creature to add another mana. This is good mana ramp for 3 mana. This is very good. Very, very good. Wow. Yeah, this is excellent mana ramp. You're gonna have legendary creatures down by turn 3, I think, in most archetypes. So, alright, let's say you're lucky enough to have a 2 mana legendary creature. Play on turn 2, you play this on turn 3. There's no summoning sickness involved in this. Play this on turn 3, tap out your mana. You still have 2 more mana to work with. So turn 3, you get 5 mana to work with. 3 of which you're using to play this, but so I guess kind of slows your tempo a little bit. But then turn 4, all bets are off, and you have 6 mana to play your bomb. Turn 4 bomb. It's great. Relic of Legends gets a B. Excellent mana ramp for any archetype. Relic of Legends, that's going to be a pack 1, pick 1. I guarantee it. Even over some rares and mythics or uncommons that got a higher grade. This gives you flexibility to start off a draft. You know, that's a really good card. Alright, Joda's Codex is next. 5 colorless for an artifact with domain. Domain ability is 5 colorless. Tap this artifact, draw a card. And the ability costs 1 less for each domain. Alright, so 5 mana to play this. And then let's say you have a domain of 2. 3 mana tap, draw a card. How useful is that? I don't think that's very good. If you have a domain of 3, 2 mana tap, draw a card. That's a little bit better. I think that's approaching C. For domain, 1 mana, draw a card. That's good. That's like C+, I think. Problem is the 5 mana to put this down in the first place. I guess if you're in domain archetype, this is a late game advantage. Otherwise, it's just kind of, it's tough to play and survive, I think. Yeah, I think at best, Joda's Codex is probably a C+. At worst, it's a D. No, maybe D+. I don't think you would want to play this if you only can manage a domain of 2. I think that would be a D+. Anyways, Walking Bulwark. 1 colorless for a 0/3 artifact Golem Defender. With the ability to, until the end of turn, target creature with Defender gains haste, can attack as though it didn't have Defender, and assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. Activate only as a sorcery. Sold. This is the Defender archetype. This is the card that allows your defenders to attack and hit hard. Defenders have high toughness. For 2 mana, You can target any of your defenders and swing. You can activate it multiple times, target multiple defenders, and start swinging with your stupid walls. I think this is imperative for the defender archetype. I wouldn't even try to go into the defender archetype unless A, you're trying to mill your opponent to death, or B, you open this in pack 1. Even if you open this in pack 1, you want multiple. I feel like you need to have this down if you're planning to attack with your walls. And the only way to do that is to have more than one copy in your deck. So, let's see. Build around B. Otherwise, let's see, 1 mana for creature that can attack for 3 on turn 2. That's not bad either, I guess. I'd say C-. Maybe just C in a vacuum in any archetype. Walking Bulwark. Build around B, otherwise C. That might be useful in every archetype. Inscribe Tablet. 1 colorless for an artifact with the ability 1, tap, sacrifice this tablet, reveal the top 5 cards of your library, put a land card from among them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. If you didn't put a card in your hand this way, draw a card. That's not bad. For just 2 mana, play this turn 1, pop it turn 2, guarantee you don't miss a land drop, and if, by some stroke of bad luck, you do end up missing a land drop, at least you got to draw a card. And the card you draw is the 6th card from the top, not the top 5, because those go on the bottom of your library. So that could be the land that you needed. I like it. I like Inscribe Tablet. I think all archetypes would want this. I'd give it a C. It just adds flexibility. Yes, Jake's got it right. Next up, Hero's Heirloom. 2 colorless for a equipment artifact. Crypt Creature gets +2/+1. It's equipped 2. As long as equipped creature is a legendary, it has trample and haste. Equip 2 +2/+1. That's not bad. That's respectable. I think if you have a few legendary creatures, giving them trample and haste is good. I think this is a playable equipment. Give it a C. Next up, Meteorite. 5 colorless artifact. When Meteorite enters the battlefield, it deals 2 damage to any target. And it has the activated ability tap, add 1 mana of any color. So for 5 mana, you get to ping something for 2. Or you can ping, send 2 to the face. And it's just a land otherwise. 5 mana, ping 2. I don't know about this. It doesn't seem very good. By the time you can play this, you don't need the extra mana. And it's just a 5 mana cost. Deal 2 damage to any target. I don't like it. Meteorite gets a D-. Salvaged Mana Worker. 2 colorless for a construct creature. Add 1 mana of It has the ability 1 colorless, add 1 mana of any color, activate only once each turn. Alright, so 2 mana, 1/3, and you can convert 1 of your lands into any color. I like the flexibility it provides. This enables a 4 or 5 color draft. It's going to be useful. It's a C-, I think. Just a 2 mana 1/3, and you don't need the 1 mana of any color ability. It's a C- or a D+. But if you need the flexibility in mana base, then it's going to work for you, and it's a C or C+. Just C in that case. So D plus C. Salvage mana worker is going to see play. Vanquisher's Axe. It's kind of like Prismatic Prism. It just converts 1 of your lands into any color, but it's more removable than Prismatic Prism. It is an early defender, so it keeps you alive. I think it's fine. I think this should be exactly the same grade as Prismatic Prism, whatever that grade was. Vanquisher's Axe. 1 colorless for an equipment. Crypt Creature gets +2/+0, equip 2. That's it. That's all there is. 1 mana to put it down, equip 2, add 2 power. Fine. C-. Next, Shield Wall Sentinel. 4 colorless for Golem. It's a defender. When this card enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a creature card with defender, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. So this obviously goes into the defender archetype. I don't think any other archetype would want it. 4 mana for a 1/3. That's not good. That's real bad. That's real bad. So it's an F unless you find yourself in the defender archetype in draft. In which case, you can wait until pick 13 to grab this, because nobody else is going to want it. You can have all the Shield Wall Sentinels you can handle. And that kind of makes this interesting. That kind of makes the defender archetype viable, I think. You get 4 of these in your deck, you are not want for creatures in your hand. This thing will just pull all the creatures you need. Interesting. So F or build around C. It's not. I can't even call it a build around. This is something this is the wall built around your defender archetype. So this is the stuff you're building with. Anyways, next up, Automatic Librarian. 3 colorless for a 3/2 construct creature. When it enters the battlefield, scry 2. 3 mana 3/2, scry 2. Pretty unexciting. C-. That's it. Okay, I think that's everything. Is that everything? Other colorless. Oh, there's colorless planeswalkers. I didn't see. All right, Karin, Living Legacy. 4 colorless for a legendary planeswalker with 3 mana 3 loyalty abilities. It enters the battlefield with 4 loyalty. First one, +1. Create a tapped Power Stone token. It's an artifact with tap, add a colorless mana. And this mana can't be spent to cast a non-artifact spell. Wow. So this is completely useless in Limited, because most of the artifacts are fucking terrible in this set. Wow. Okay, so next. So it creates a Power Stone token that enters the battlefield tapped. So you can't even use it that turn. What's next? -1. Pay any amount of mana. Look at that many cards from the top of your library. Then put one of those cards into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Okay. That's decent. I don't even know what to say about that. Let's see what the ultimate is. -7, you get an emblem with tap an untapped artifact you control. This emblem deals 1 damage to any target. This is fucking terrible. Holy Nikes. This is an F for limited. You should avoid this at all costs. Who cares that it's a Planeswalker? Who cares that the second ability is playable? Everything else about it sucks. I could see how it's playable in a standard artifact archetype, but this is not a limited archetype at all. This is terrible. All right. What's next? Are there any other artifact planeswalkers that I missed? No. Are there any other colorless creatures? Non-artifact creatures? No. Is that it? Lands! Oh, how about the lands? Alright. Plaza of Heroes. Colorless lands, no basic land type. Tap, add a colorless mana. Or tap, add 1 mana of any color, spend this only to cast a legendary spell. Or tap, add 1 mana of any color among legendary permanents you control. Or 3 colorless mana and tap and exile this land. Target legendary creature gains hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Okay. I don't think this is that bad. It doesn't enter the battlefield tapped. You're going to have legendary spells to cast. You're going to have legendary permanents on the battlefield at some point. I don't think there's ever been a draft I've done where I didn't end up with a legendary creature of some type. Or a legendary artifact or enchantment. Something like that. So once you have legendary down, you can tap to add 1 mana of any color in that casting cost. And the final ability, 3 tap exile this to give hexproof and indestructible to a legendary creature. Isn't that bad? I give this a C-. I think this is playable in most decks. The only reason you wouldn't play this is if you don't have enough mana sources to begin with. This could hurt you early in the game when you need colors. Otherwise, C-, it's playable. Kind of like the final ability to protect a legendary creature. Next up, Thrawn Portal. It's a gate land with no basic land type. It enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or fewer other lands. When it enters, choose a basic land type. Okay. This gate is the chosen type in addition to its other types, so it is a basic land type. So this enables domain. You could choose a basic land type that you don't even have in your deck, and this becomes that type. Final ability is mana abilities of this gate cost an additional 1 life to activate. Alright. So this doesn't have any tap abilities, but when it enters the battlefield, it becomes the chosen basic land type. So as a basic land type, it is tappable for that color land. But that is a mana ability, so every time you tap this for that color, it costs you 1 life. I think this is definitely going to be a staple in domain archetypes. You're definitely going to want it to increase your domain, even if you're only running... I mean, you would want multiple of these, I think. Just to say you have a domain one extra. Otherwise, if you're not in domain or you don't have any domain cards in your archetype, it's an F. You don't want it at all. And despite the flexibility of either or whatever mana colors you need, it could give you that for 1 life to activate. But I don't think you would want it really for that. Maybe it's flexible enough that, and that 1 life is negligible enough that aggro decks would want it to ensure they find the colors they need early. So maybe it's not F, maybe it's D. Let's give it a D. Thrawn Portal is a D unless you're a domain, in which case it's a C and you want it. And you're gonna get it late in the draft. Alright, next we get a cycle of dual lands. Somebody called them pain lands. I like that, because you tap to add either or a color, and if you choose one of those colors, then it deals the damage to you. Okay. Or you could just tap it to add a colorless. I like the flexibility. I think these are going to be moderately prized in draft. Flexibility is important in draft, especially. It seems like there's a lot of multicolored creatures in this set, and I think about half of them were multicolored with dual, like blue in their casting cost, plus multicolor. So those are kind of hard to cast unless you have the flexibility these lands provide. So these get a C+ grade for me. They're going to be wanted and drafted probably in the middle of packs, you know, pick 6 or 7. Alright, Crystal Grotto is next. It's a colorless land. When it enters the battlefield, scry 1. Has 2 mana abilities. Add colorless for tap, or 1 colorless, tap, add 1 mana of any color. This is good. I think you would always want this. It reduces your mana base a little bit. It doesn't mean it doesn't. It reduces the domain of your mana base a little bit. But it does give you flexibility. It allows you to splash more colors. And the scry is good. It doesn't enter the battlefield tapped. I like it. I give it a B-. I think Crystal Grotto is going to go higher than the dual lands. Is that crazy? That might be crazy. It might be exactly the same. It might be a C+. I think this is a good card though. Crystal Grotto. What else? Oh, we got more dual lands in this set. That's interesting. Wow. Okay, so the mana fixing here, and these are common dual lands. So the pain lands are rare? I guess they're rare because they don't enter tapped and they give you that flexibility. Despite the damage. I like it. Okay. So the common dual lands enter tapped regardless. But shit, if they're common, there's gonna be, oh man, 5 colors definitely an archetype. This is gonna happen. Domain is very viable. And these are basic land types. Look at this. Land, island, swamp. That's a basic land type. Swamp, mountain, basic land. Mountain, forest. Holy shit. Domain's gonna be so easy. You could get 5 domain on turn 3. Wow. Holy shit. I'm curious to see what 2 or 3 mana value domain cards are in this set. I would need to see them together, you know? See how many there are. But shit. those lands are awesome. And that's everything. What else? Good artifacts. We saw all these spells. Are there any colorless sorceries? I don't think so. Colorless instants. No, that would be kind of cool though. That's it. I think that finishes the review here. I covered every single card. I gave you my expert opinion. Dominaria United. I think it looks great. I'm gonna have fun drafting this. And I'm gonna play some Baldur's Gate for the next week and a half until I can play with this. So that's it. I'm gonna stop streaming for now, and I'll be back a little bit later.